Hello everyone, welcome back to the Anatomy Lab. Today we're going to be looking at the urinary system, and the major organ of the urinary system is the kidney. So here is a kidney, and you may recognize it a little bit better when you look at it like this. This kind of kidney bean-shaped structure is your kidney, but instead of being like the size of a bean, it's going to be the size of your fist. So this is a pretty big kidney bean, but like not this big either, like the size of your fist. So here's your kidney, and there's some associated structures that you should be aware of as well. So first of all, you can see that you have large blood vessels that are going to and from the kidney. This is an important thing because the kidney is going to be filtering blood in order to produce urine from your blood, or water-soluble waste from your blood. So this red one would be the renal artery. This blue one would be the renal vein. And let's introduce renal as well, because renal, whenever you hear renal, you should be thinking kidney. So we're going to hear that quite a few times before the end of this video, but renal artery and renal vein, they're going to and from the kidney. And you can see it also on this model here, where you have the two kidneys, the renal artery coming away from the abdominal aorta here to go to the kidney, and then from the kidney, the renal vein draining into the inferior vena cava. So, also within the kidney, let's take a look at some spaces in the kidney. These are the renal sinuses. The renal sinuses are just empty spaces in the kidney, which often are going to be filled with adipose tissue. These spaces with the adipose tissue are going to allow it to help with supporting as well as protecting structures in the kidney as well as tubes of the kidney. Now, one more thing before we talk about functional structures of the kidney. This gland on top of the kidney is called the adrenal gland, or adrenal, or on top of the kidney, on top of the renal. And you can see that it has two layers, the adrenal cortex on the outside and the adrenal medulla on the inside. Now continuing with the kidney, you can see that there's a flap of tissue which is kind of thin and dark on the outside of the kidney. That is called the renal capsule. The renal capsule helps with protecting the kidney and its internal structures. Now, regarding the functional tissues of the kidney, you have the outermost layer, just like in the adrenal gland. This is going to be the renal cortex. So this outer kind of lighter, kind of spongy looking tissue, this is the adrenal cortex. And you may also notice that you can see the adrenal cortex going a little bit deeper as well. Like most of it is on the outside, but you can have these little straight portions as well. These straight portions that go deeper are called the renal columns. Now, besides the renal cortex, you also have the renal medulla, which is the inner or deep layer. So collectively, all of these darker parts make up the renal medulla. So the outer layer, renal cortex, inner layer, renal medulla. But the renal medulla will be made up of single structures which are called renal pyramids. So this, or each of these, is one renal pyramid. So here is a renal pyramid, and you can see it in its 3D shape. It's a bit wide on one side and then pointed on the other. That's what's going to give it a kind of cone or pyramid-like shape. Now, just keep in mind when you're looking at these structures, not all of the pictures will look like this. Sometimes you'll see that it's cut across in cross-section like this. These kind of flower petal-shaped structures are still renal pyramids. Now, at the tips of the renal pyramids, you should see that it kind of changes in color and a little bit in shape. This is the renal papilla. So papilla is like a bump that is at the very tip of the renal pyramid. And at the ends of each of the renal pyramids, you'll see that it comes to a little funnel-like structure, which is this little kind of cup at the very bottom of each of the renal pyramids. That is called a minor calyx. So they're going to be helping with collecting urine made from the kidney, and then it's going to travel throughout the body until it's expelled. Now, when each of these minor calyces join together, like when you have 2 or 3 or more calyces joined together, as in like here with 1, 2, and 3, this region right here is going to be called a major calyx. So more than one minor calyces joining, major calyx. And when the major calyces join together, that's when you're going to have a region like this, or like this. That is called the renal pelvis. From the renal pelvis, it will then lead into a tube, which will help it to travel down from like the upper abdomen to the lower abdomen so that it could be stored in the urinary bladder. But it first must travel through this tube called the ureter. So this is the ureter, but you can see the rest of it in this model here. Traveling down from the kidney through this long tube, this is the ureter. And the ureter is going to lead to this muscular sac-like structure, which is the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is going to have a couple of structures that you should know as well. The first of which are these little ridges or folds. These are rugae. So you've probably heard of this or remember it from the stomach. These rugae help with distension or extension so that it could expand a little bit so it could get bigger. So when you hold your urine, it doesn't have like a finite space, it could expand a little bit. And then also, there's this triangular kind of smooth structure. This is the trigone. This helps with funneling urine as the urine is leaving the body, and it enters the urethra here. So when you're ready to expel urine, it will leave the urinary bladder and then enter the urethra so it could leave the body for urination.